Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. My next guest on Conversations with Big Rich is a guy that went from firefighter to sheriff's department, from rock crawler to KOH racer, to becoming the 2003 Ultra 4 4400 class national points champion, is Bryan Crofts. Good morning, Bryan Crofts. Good to have you on the podcast. It's going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to this one.
I appreciate you having me on here, Big. And I'm excited to tell my story.
Great. So let's get started with the easiest question for me to ask. Where were you born and raised?
Novato, California, which is just north of San Francisco.
Right. You're just, Novato's in that little section up there where the fog kind of stays out of that area for the most part, even when the bay is foggy. Is that correct?
Yeah, which makes for optimal off-roading and just perfect weather.
Yeah, when you're growing up and stuff. And it's kind of shaded by the mountains there, so you don't get the heavy winds. That must have been nice. I grew up south of San Francisco and in San Bruno, which was called the Windy City. And that's where they put the airport, so you know it's windy. And we had the fog, and we had the wind. We had the miserable weather, but you guys up there had the sun a lot.
Yeah, it was a great place to grow up. It was a small town, wanted out as a kid, but I think I want back in as an adult. But it was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to anywhere close to the Bay Area now. The traffic is just horrendous. So let's talk about those early years. What did you guys do growing up, for fun? I know your dad seems like he's always been into off-roading, and so I'm sure you guys got started early.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad was into dirt bikes before I was born and motorcycles. And so he got us started in dirt bike riding early. So 2.5 is when I first started riding dirt bikes. And then, as a normal kid, I played baseball, I played football. I played for the junior Mustangs, the ponies, the Mustangs, etc. And then I kind of got out of school sports when I got into high school and got more involved into off-roading and dirt bikes and everything of that nature.
And your riding of motorcycles in that area, was that up in the hills or track type stuff? What were you doing?
Mostly up in the hills. So we'd go up to Forest Hill, which Auburn area. We would go out to Prairie City, NorCal Rock Racing area. We also had a cool little place, and it's still out there, Marin County Motorcycle Association. We've got, I can't remember how many thousands of acres, but it's a little club that we belong to and plenty of trail riding. So we were able to go close and we'd go far. There's a lot of different areas that we'd go ride, but for the main part, we'd go up in the hills. And it was my favorite type of riding.
So I have a question. I was thinking about this last night. Your dad's name is Art. You are Bryan. And then your younger brother is Chris. Is that correct?
Actually, older brother, Chris.
Oh, so it went out of order. I was getting the ABC thing going there.
Yep. No, he's actually 2.5 years older than me.
Oh, is he? Okay. All right. Didn't know that. I've only met him once or twice that I can recall. We may have met more than that, but of course I've known for quite a while.
Yep.
So let's talk about those early years more in depth. The schooling there. You said Novato's a small town. That's relative to towns in the Bay Area, or in the Phoenix area. It's relatively small, but let's talk about what school was like.
Yeah. So school for me, we lived too far away to ride bikes to school. We didn't have a bus stop to pick up, on the bus. So my parents would drive us to school. Every now and again, I was able to, ride my BMX bike to school and things of that nature. But as far as school, I was just a normal kid. I liked BMX bikes. I liked sports. I played football. I was in a weird age bracket where I was born in September, right? So I was either the young kid in school or I was the old kid in school. And in enrollment, I ended up being the young kid. So unfortunately for me, it put me in a weird spot where I played football against not against the people in my grade. I play one grade lower. So I had to always work harder to prove myself to the older guys, if you will. But I played Pop Warner. I played baseball. Once I got into high school, I quit playing sports. I played a little bit of traveling baseball for a little bit, and then I really wanted to fall back in love with dirt bike riding and racing. So I focused more on dirt bike riding and whatnot, and that's what got me involved in off road.
Okay, so. What about grade-wise? Were you a good student, or were you one of those kids that looked out the window rather being outdoors?
Yeah, I didn't get that great of grades, not until I got to college, and then school kind of hit home with me, and I was able to get better grades. But I was your average boy, didn't get the grade. I just slid through school. I think I wish I would have stuck my head down a little harder and did better in school, but I wanted to be out playing. I didn't have the school drive.
Right. Isn't hindsight a great thing?
Yeah.
When it's too late, you go, dang, I should have done that. Oh, I could have done this. Yep. So then when you were in school and you were paying attention, what was the class you liked most?
Well, PE, of course, but science.
Science. Okay.
Science was awesome. I was actually lucky enough to still have wood shop and auto shop. So in middle school, we had a wood shop, and that was awesome, right? I got to build things and use tools. And then when I got to high school, we were able to still have auto shop. And of course, auto shop was my favorite. But realistically, out of everything, science is what I like the most.
Excellent. So the what do you think it was with science that intrigued you? Was it just what do you think it was that intrigued you?
I don't know. I think it was just I don't know. I don't know. I really enjoyed dissecting of animals. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh no, that's kind of creepy. No.
Just like the way the body worked. I liked all the chemicals, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just something that caught my attention, I guess, more than econ and writing and things of that nature. So
right. Okay. So when you're getting close to being out of high school and thinking of college, did you have something that you wanted to do?
Yeah. So as a young kid, I always wanted to be a garbage guy, right? I always wanted to be a garbage man. And
they make good money.
Later, they do. Yeah. And then later on in life, right about probably like sophomore year in high school, I started thinking about doing fire. And I wanted to be a volunteer fire when I turned 18 and all that kind of stuff. So I decided that I wanted to go get my firefighter one, be a firefighter, do my EMT, all that kind of stuff. So that's what drove me to go to school, was be a firefighter.
Okay. And is that what you concentrated on in college?
It was, yeah. So I ended up going to a small town called Weed, which
Yep.
is just north of Mount Shasta. I lived there for roughly 4 years. I got my firefighter one, I got my EMT, I got my hazmat tech and specialist. So I had all my certification for being a firefighter, and and then I worked at the fire department up in Weed for about 3 years. And that's what I wanted to do.
And you say that like that didn't continue.
It didn't continue, yeah. So it was really tough. As soon as I graduated high school, right? I graduated in 2001, and we all know what happened September of 2001.
Right.
Was 9/11. And at that time, just after 9/11, I was able to graduate high school. I was able to start my firefighter one, my EMT, all that stuff. By 2002, I was already done with everything, and I was ready to start applying to fire departments. And the hardest thing that I found was there was a big surge in people wanting to be firefighters.
Right.
So fire departments weren't taking just firefighters; they were taking firefighter paramedics. I had no interest in being a paramedic. So that kind of drove me away and discouraged me of being a firefighter for quite a few years. And unfortunately, that allowed my firefighter one to lapse, and I wasn't able to renew it in time to be a firefighter later on in life.
Okay. And when you were in high school and getting up to that point, were you working at all?
I was, yeah. So I was able to work at a couple of buddy shops. I was a painter, so I was a house painter. My very first job was at Big O Tires. I had to get a work permit, had my parents sign off on it, and the whole reason I got that was I wanted a new dirt bike, and my parents wouldn't buy me a new dirt bike. Horrible for me, right? But my parents said if I was able to get a job, that they would co-sign on a loan for a new dirt bike. Okay. So at 14 and a half, I worked at Big O Tire, and I worked there all the way till I was 16. Then I worked as a house painter on the summertime, and then I worked at a mechanic shop till I graduated high school.
Excellent. And what kind of work were you doing? Just R&R or?
Yeah, just regular automotive repair.
Okay.
Anything from oil change to motor swaps, but that's what I did, till I went off to school.
Okay. And what kind of, I know you riding bikes, but what was your first vehicle, car, truck?
So my first car was actually a car. It was a 67 RS SS Camaro. And a little bit about me that a lot of people don't know is I drag raced all the way through high school. And that was my first car. I got that at 14 and a half. And my dad and I were able to build that till I was 16 and started drag racing. And I drag raced all the way till into high school.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so I did the high school. So out at Sears Point, which was only 8 miles from our house.
Right.
They did high school drags on Wednesday night, and then you could go to do the divisional races. And if you did well at divisional races, you could become a divisional, champion, and you could go to the championship divisional races in Vegas and whatnot. And I was able to do pretty well, and I was able to win a championship in our Division 7, drag racing. And then, again, like I said, I had to leave that drag racing stuff behind to go to school.
Right. Okay. And you don't still have that Camaro, do you?
I don't. I wish I did. That was one car I regret.
Right. So then what did you take to school when you went to Weed?
So I was really into lowered square body trucks, which is a big thing nowadays, right?
Right.
So my parents had an 83 Chevy truck that my dad built, and kind of like a little show truck. They let me take that up to Weed, and I used that while I was up there. And then I decided some point in time right before the winter time up there, I decided I wanted to get a Toyota. So I bought I think it was a 90 or 91 Toyota extended cab that had already been solid axle swapped and was on 37s and whatnot. And I knew nothing about wheeling. I just knew that I liked the look, and I bought that truck, and that was the truck that got me into off-roading.
And where did you start that at? Did you start that at up there in way northern California, Weed area?
Yep. So that's what sparked the interest. I had a buddy that I went to school with that lived across the hall from me who had a lifted Chevy truck, and him and I would go out to Wairika, to Mt Shasta, and it was just kind of like doing trail, like fire roads and mud wheeling, nothing, no rocks, no nothing. And that's what got me, interested in doing more of it.
Right. Okay.
And, yeah.
So that, while you were going to school up there, I would imagine it was full-time school, because it was school, and you were not only training, but were you like apprenticing with a fire department as well?
Yeah, so it was an intensive program. So it was a 6 month program with the academy,
Okay.
and that was 5 days a week, and sometimes weekend. And then once I was off school, I was also a volunteer firefighter at Weed Fire Department. So I would, respond to calls and whatnot. I had a pager and all that kind of thing. And then in the downtime, I would also do some general ed and, EMT and building suppression classes, things of that nature. But I also was able to have enough time off throughout that time to work at the Mount Shasta Ski Resort, where I was one of the first people to qualify for National Ski Patrol on a snowboard, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
And I was able to, start my journey as a National Ski Patrol, which I didn't carry through with, but I did take the test. I passed the test. I got offered a position. I just never followed through with it.
Right. I took the on-hill test.
Yeah.
And up at what was then, well, it's Sierra Tahoe.
Yep.
And I hadn't skied in a lot of years, and I knew I wanted to try it. I had always wanted to see if I could, take the test and pass it. And I remember I rented equipment the weekend before, went up and skied for one day and said, okay, I'm ready. And then went and did the testing the next weekend, all on rental gear, and kind of blew everybody away that was taking the test at the same time, and had no clue. And I remember the first run, take us all the way up to the top of the hill, and then one without stopping all the way down to the bottom. And they said, okay, the reason we do this at the end of the year is we want to see what kind of condition you're in. And, typically you've had all season long to ski. So, the first run is going to be no stopping, just, we're going down the biggest hill, the longest hill. And, we'll see what kind of condition everybody's in at the bottom. We get to the bottom and my legs are burning. But I was the first one down besides the instructors, we followed them down. And then, they go, that's when they said, okay, obviously you guys are all in condition. And I'm thinking, oh shit, it's going to be a long day. So you get out of Weed, and you are applying for fire position jobs and can't find something because you don't have your paramedic level.
Yep.
What did you decide to do then?
So then I got involved in automotive marketing side. So I worked with a lot of different automotive manufacturers doing ride and drives, or in-house dealer training. Also some R&D with some manufacturers right out of college. and kind of fell into that through my cousin who had been doing that for, years prior. So I traveled the country, and quote unquote the world on, other people's dime, and worked with a lot of very cool manufacturers, drove a lot of really cool cars. And then
that's pretty good that you had a cousin that was already in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
how in the hell did you score that? And then, you told us, but it was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I started at the bottom, cleaning wheels and kicking cones, and, I was the grunt. And I saw all these guys doing cool stuff with cars, and, they were up on stage facilitating and talking about vehicles and this and that. And that was the drive, that I wanted, and that I got, and I saw that to make me move farther into that industry. And it took a little while, but, I was able to work my way up through the industry. And again, it allowed me to work with a lot of really cool manufacturers, and been to a lot of cool tracks and things of that nature.
And about how long did that last?
So I did that all the way up until 2016. But 2009, I took a break from it for a year. And 2009, I decided, when the market and everything crashed, that the auto industry was taking a hit and work was a little harder to come by. I decided that I should find something else to do. And a buddy of mine, Parker Morris, which you may have remembered, he was my spotter in We Rock.
Right.
He ended up getting hired on with the sheriff's department in San Francisco, and I was like, man, if they'll hire you, they'll hire me. So I decided to take a different avenue and went into law enforcement, and took about a year and a half off of work and focused on doing the police academy and all that kind of stuff.
And that was that 2009 era?
That was 2009 era.
Okay.
And I didn't get hired until 2012 with the San Francisco Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
And there was a big hiring freeze in the city and whatnot. But yeah, I was in the Sheriff's Department for 12 years.
Wow. What did what was it like being a sheriff in San Francisco? I mean, because it's the city and county of San Francisco.
Correct. Yeah. So San Francisco is a city and county in one, which a lot of people don't realize. We have a lot of different agencies within San Francisco. We have National Guard. We have everybody. And what the sheriff's department's role was in San Francisco prior was the sheriffs usually run the county, right? There was a mishap way early on in the years where they relinquished all the power to the sheriff, and the police department handled basically everything in San Francisco. And the sheriff's department got gifted the jails, the hospitals, and serve warrants. And that was about it. So I didn't do much patrol. I worked in the jail for the most part. I did go out on the streets, but I worked in the jail, and I enjoyed working in the jail. So I worked at 850 Bryant Street, right downtown by the Giant Stadium. And I worked 3 on, 4 off. I worked 12-hour shifts. It was a perfect schedule, and there was a lot to see and a lot going on in the city. We're a very, very diverse city. I saw things that I probably wish they would have put in the literature before hiring, because I may not have signed up for it, but it changed my outlook on life. It made me grow up a lot quicker. It was very interesting. I like people. I like interacting with people. So it kind of felt like a perfect fit. My biggest thing was like working in the jail. I like to know like what made people click, like why were they in there? That kind of thing. I like the conversations. I like the interaction. So it was an awesome time for me. I enjoyed it.
So you're growing up in Novato and having to cross the bridge. You didn't spend much time as a kid in San Francisco?
I didn't. My
Okay.
parents grew up in the city. We were in Novato. The only time we went to the city was like field trips in school, or my dad, when I was a young kid, had season tickets to the Niners at Candlestick.
Okay.
So we would go into the city for that. But really, I guess we were into, every kid was kind of into like skateboarding at that time, and Haight-Ashbury, if you know the area,
Right.
was like a big skate area. That whole kind of genre was there. So we would go into the city, for like some skate gear and things of that nature, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time in the city.
Okay. Because growing up south of San Francisco, we could throw our bikes, on Samtrans or even BART later on and get up into the city really easily, or even just where I lived. I mean, I could ride my bike. It was an hour or so, but we could ride out to Candlestick, and I used to go watch Giants games and stuff like that. And my parents were Niner season tickets holders, and then I got them when I was in high school. But it was, the city was a playground for me as a kid. So I grew up there, because both my mom and dad worked in the city. And so I would go up to the city and hang out at like Golden Gate Park as a preteen and a teenager, and just travel around the city. I mean, it was a lot different than than it was even when you grew up and went through there.
Yeah.
The city was crazy, but it was safer. Well, times were just different and safer, in the 60s and 70s. The hippie movement there and in Golden Gate Park and Haight-Ashbury and all the diversity. I mean, you talk about a city where you could get any kind of food in the world, restaurant wise, and the arts and the entertainment there was incredible. But yeah, it is. It's changed. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we didn't get much time there. I mean, of course, when my brother, is 2.5 years older, right? So he would eventually take me to the city, for some adult activities, when I was younger, and we would go, go down to Broadway Street.
Oh yeah.
Won't go into it too much, but we go down to Broadway and do things of that nature. But that was about it. We never really went to the city a whole lot. Like you said, times had changed, and we didn't spend a whole lot of time down there.
Right. Okay. So then, while you were doing your car thing up to 2009, or till you got into the sheriff's department, what were you driving then? Were you still in that Toyota 4x4?
No. I've gone through quite a few cars in my base. So I've had everything from the Toyotas to Jeeps to Dodge pickups. I got really big into Dodge diesels. Out of college, I started drag racing and doing dyno competitions and whatnot. So for a while there, I had the fastest all diesel single turbo Dodge diesel in the nation. I went to, like I said, I did a lot of drag racing with it. I did a lot of dyno comps, things of that nature. And then I started building a Jeep at some point with Mike Schaefer. And that was one of the last Jeeps I've owned. But I've had everything from Subarus to trucks to Camaros, all kinds of things.
So let's talk about your time in We Rock. You mentioned that along with Parker. When did you get started on that, and how'd that come about?
So I got into that. So my Toyota, right? My Toyota extended cab turned into me meeting a buddy of mine who just recently passed away, Greg Peterson, who used to work at Mike Popola's, which you may remember Popola Off-Road.
Yep.
And so he worked at Popola's, and that's where him and I met. And I had some ARB trouble with my Toyota, not really knowing anything about that kind of vehicle yet. I had them do some work on it, and he asked one day if I was interested in going wheeling, and I kind of blew him off and wasn't interested. And about a year later, I sold the Toyota, and Parker and I drove up to Oregon, and I bought a YJ, and I decided I wanted to start building this YJ, and I went back up and I met Greg, and we started throwing parts at it, and he asked again if I wanted to go wheeling with him in the Wine Country Rock Crawlers out of Sonoma. And we went to Fordyce, and that was my first off-roading experience, first wheeling experience, and fell in love with it. And that turned into me wanting to have the Jeep built a little bit better, and that introduced me to Bob Rogie, which at the time owned CNR Motorsports, and I had him do a 4-link with a Dana 60 and air shocks in the rear. And he introduced me to Danny Patterson and Jody Everdeen at the time. And
boy, he just ruined your life, didn't he?
Yep. So I see them up there, and I see their stock mod rigs, right? So I see the Bass Boat red and orange rig that Jody had, and I see Danny's Bass Boat green one, and I fell in love with them. And I went wheeling with Bob a couple of times, and Bob called me and said, "Hey, Jody's looking to get out of the stock mod rig if you're interested." And I jumped on it, and I went down and I picked up the Jeep from him and Sarah at the time and brought it up, had Bob do some work on it. And my first We Rock event was Paris, California.
Okay. All right. It was Paris, huh? Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it was awesome. I loved it. I fell in love with We Rock. I ran We Rock for, I think, 2 years is what I ran We Rock for, and I ran Cal Rock in between with Glenn Bonner. And I just fell in love with rock crawling.
Do you know that Paris event site? That was Ricky Johnson's.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that
was
motocross track.
Yeah, that was 2009, I think, and that brings me back to remembering, because I remember being there. That was when the Campbells just finished Jason Shear's 2009 winning car, which then went to Schaefer's to get done for KOH. But yeah, I remember being there watching, that big drop that was there. And I mean, it was just such a cool event. And I remember just always wanting to have a pro mod or a unlimited car. But yeah, that was a really cool event. And that's what drove me to want to continue doing rock crawling and whatnot.
So we did the tech and registration at Hooters,
Yep.
down the highway there a little bit. Were you
Yep.
there when Jason raced those street rods that came in?
I didn't. I was not. I remember I remember getting dropped off there though.
Okay. Yeah, there was some guys came in with blowers and all this stuff. I mean, really nice rigs, and they were laughing at our shit. And Jason and the one guy raced, and Jason smoked him. And the guy they all left heads down, ashamed.
Yep.
They couldn't believe it. That was with water in the tires.
Yeah, those are some good times.
Absolutely. So then you spend a couple of years rock crawling. You're working automotive stuff as well. You're in the sheriff's department. Those kind of things all overlapped. And what happened next?
So I guess I kind of jumped around a little bit there. I guess I got into We Rock before 2009, so it must have been 2007-ish.
All right.
We Rock and Cal Rock. So 2008, I remember getting a crawl mag or something of that nature, and I saw something for King of the Hammers. And late 2008, I bought Mike Popola's old stock mod rig and turned that into a KOH rig. I put bypasses on it and 40s, and it was still coil spring and whatnot, but did that, and that drove into, getting involved in King of the Hammers. And yeah.
And you've been in that ever since?
I've been in it ever since. So 2009 was my first KOH, where we had, I think it was 97 people were able to be qualified for KOH, and we all had to do an LCQ up back door and around. I think there was like 120 of us that showed up, and I made the cut. I was one of the last ones to make the cut, but unfortunately I broke both coilovers off on the front, and I wasn't able to get the car done in time to race KOH of 2009.
Okay.
And that was the first year Shannon showed up with his IFS car. And I saw that thing, and, that was like $150,000 car back then, which was unheard of. And I was like, man, I've got like a $30,000 trail rig. There's no way I can compete against these people. And I stepped away from KOH for a few years, and I sold the cars. I got into trail wheeling. I focused on the sheriff's department, buying a house, that kind of stuff. And then one year, my brother and I went up to Reno for the Nationals race, and we're sitting in the grandstands, and he goes, "Hey, bro, why aren't you racing?" I'm like, "I don't have the money." And he's like, "Yeah, but like, I know you're faster than half these people out there, and you can race with them. Why don't you do it?" And I was able to spend about a year of, working, and I was able to get connected with Jesse Haynes, and I was able to buy his old 4,500 car, and went out and raced 4,500 in 2016. So that was when I got back into to racing Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers, and it just continued.
Cool. And you spent how many years, or what was the first year you went on Jamboree?
First year I went on Jamboree, I believe, was 2007. 2007.
Okay.
2007, I think, was the first year we went on Jeepers Jamboree. We went on Jeep Jamboree first, and that was cool. And then, Bob and Jody and all those guys invited me to participate in what everyone calls the adult summer camp. And I did Jeepers one year, and that was it. I fell in love. Jeepers is one of my favorite events in the country.
I agree. I just don't get a chance to go as often because the timing was always poor with our event series. But
Correct.
Now that I'm retired from going to the events, I hope to make that, starting next year, a regular thing. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see. But I keep saying that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I lived just down the road from. I lived in Orangevale or Folsom, and I was always on the Rubicon. So, like, I loved Rubicon is my favorite. Jeepers is my favorite event. Forward Ice is awesome. I just trail wheeled for many years.
So then you started racing the 4,500 class, and how many years did you race that until you jumped up?
I raced the 4,500 car, I believe, for a full season. And my last race, I can tell you because I remember, was when we raced at the Mint 400 in Ultra 4.
Okay.
And it was raining. It was a miserable race. A buddy of mine, TJ, was my co-driver. We blew the rear shocks out of the car. We were all the way up into like 6th place in 4,400, and we were on that 45 car. And I remember loading it on the trailer and thinking this was the dumbest decision I ever did. I don't ever want to race a car like that ever again. I got my ass handed to me. And I decided halfway through the drive home to put it up for sale. And I put it up for sale, and I called Randy from Jimmy's and started talking with him, and got serious about building a 4,400 car.
And so your first 4,400 car was a Jimmy's?
My first 4,400 car was a Jimmy's IFS car. But I was luckily enough, I was able to get a hold of Dave Cole, and Dave was nice enough to, in 2018, let me borrow a spec, or actually it wasn't a spec. It was one of the 4,400 cars that went over to Japan, and which was a Jimmy's car. Let me borrow one of those for nationals. And I was able to run that to be able to qualify for KOH in 2019.
Very good. And how did you do in that race?
I made the main, but that was about it. About all I can say. It didn't go well.
That was nationals.
That was nationals. I went through a bunch of tires. I had a rough time. It was an eye opener. The car definitely, it was capable, but it may not have been at the level it needed to be competitive at that time. But luckily for me, just making the main allowed me to qualify for KOH, and really that was the only thing I was there for.
Right. And then, so in 2019 at KOH, which would have been the next race for you then.
Correct.
You had the Jimmy's car ready?
Yeah. So Randy and the team over there knocked that car out pretty quick for me. We were able to bring it to SEMA for a little show, and then slammed it together right before KOH. I think I finished a couple of things on the lake bed. I got about 20 or 30 miles on the car before qualifying that year, but it was a fun time learning and rushing to get a car done.
And how did that race go for you?
So I was one of the first people to qualify that morning. Threw down the fastest lap. I held pole position all the way until power hour, and I got knocked down to fourth on qualifying position. So it was a bit of an eye opener for quite a few people, with it being a brand new car, a brand new person coming into 4,400. Car was awesome. Car worked great. I was actually lucky enough to know, and I still do, Orrin Anderson, who's Bryce Menzies co-driver.
Right.
Some of you guys might have seen him, as like co-driver of the year kind of thing. They did that whole article on him. But Orrin was happy enough to jump in with me. And if it weren't for Orrin, I probably wouldn't have finished my very first KOH in my Jimmy's car. So
why was that?
It just calming me down.
Okay.
And basically just getting us through the day. We had a very long day. We started off very good. We started off running out to Cougar Buttes. We were running in fourth or fifth place. Got to Cougar Butte, went through Cougar Butte, no problems. Came out of Cougar Butte and went to go put it back in high range, and it was stuck in low range. The shifter fork that controlled, I ran an SCS case with a Magnum box in front for low range, and the shifter fork ended up getting bent and wasn't allowing it to go back into high range. So we ran all the way back from Cougar Butte all the way to main pit in low range, and him and I both were like, man, this is going to be a long day. I don't think we're going to make it. We should just quit, and he's like, we're here, we're going to finish. And he just kept that drive going, and we literally just drove around KOH that year. Max speed, I think we saw after Cougar Butte was like 32, 31 miles an hour. Just driving it, keeping it at like 3,000 RPM the whole time. And we just laughed and trail wheeled and, had a good old time. And we were able to come home with a finish. And I think we finished like 13th that year. So it was really cool.
At Jeep speed.
Yeah,
like
it was
30 miles an hour.
It was fun. I mean, one of the funniest part of the whole deal was we were coming down. I can't remember what trail we were coming down, but I had to pee so bad. And I was like, man, I got to stop. And he's like, you don't have a catheter on? And I'm like, no. He's like, you're really going to stop? And I was like, what difference does it make? We're doing 30 miles an hour, And he's like, okay, fine. If you're going to stop, get out and check the car. So I got out, took a leak and started walking around the car, making sure everything was good, and jumped back in the car. And he was like, you're the first person I've ever drove with as a driver that got out and took a pee and walked around and checked the car. He goes, he's just laughing his ass off the whole time. But it was just a good old time.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I was lucky enough, like I said, to have Oren. I mean, he's been Casey Curry's, and I think he still is sometimes Casey's co-driver at the Hammers. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better person. Just calm head. He's knowledgeable about the area, everything. It just worked out perfect.
And how long did you? How many years did you drive that car?
So 2018, we started building the car. 2018, I was able to meet who is now my fiance, which is Bailey. So a little backstory. A buddy of ours, Dave Hollywood, people may know him.
Yep.
We were at nationals at the awards ceremony, and I saw Bailey, and I asked Dave, who she was and this and that. And next thing you know, Bailey and I started talking. Her and I, got together in 2019. I raced that Jimmy's car all of 2019 up until nationals of 2019. And then we decided that I would build a Campbell car, as now I was kind of part of the family. And I had some oddball parts compared to theirs, right? So it just made sense to make the switch to a Campbell car. So in 2020, we decided to start building, the end of 2020, we decided to build a Campbell car for myself.
Okay. And yours is a single seater?
Mine in Wayland. Yeah. So we have sister cars. That's what kind of sparked the interest. Is it was cheaper to build two cars at once than it was to build one by itself. So Wayland started his car earlier on in the year, and I started seeing his come together, and that other chassis hadn't been sold yet, and I had to have it. So yeah, they're both single seaters. They're both identical cars. Only difference is motor and some seating position stuff, and that's it.
Okay. And you're no longer working for the sheriff's department, correct?
Correct. Yeah. 2019 was my last year with the sheriff's department. I ended up getting involved in a inmate altercation. I took an inmate down to the ground to break up a fight, and in doing so, I ended up breaking a bone in my wrist and my hand, that ultimately caused my wrist to lose 90% of its movement. And in the result of that, the sheriff's department requires at least 90% movement in your wrist. So they ended up having to medically retire me from the sheriff's department in 2019.
Okay. I knew that you had stopped and that there was some injury. I didn't know what it was. Okay.
Yep. So it was a wrist injury. Luckily enough, I was able to get all the doctors and everything else to sign off on me being able to still race cars, drive cars, right? Because it's a steering wheel, that kind of thing. So that was a blessing to be able to have that on my side, or else I probably wouldn't be allowed to be racing.
Okay. And so you build a Campbell's car.
Yep.
You're now part of the Campbell stable, you might say.
Yep.
And how's that been?
It's been awesome. I mean, my first go around with them was building my car in 31 days, which was a pretty cool feat in itself. So we built that car in 31 days from start to finish. And I was able to. The biggest thing that I'd walked away with was pre-running with them, learning different lines, understanding how their vehicles work, because they are a mid-engine car. They're very seat forward versus your traditional front-engine car. So it is a different driving dynamic of that car. But being able to go out and pre-run with a 3-time king, one of, I think he's got the second most second places in Ultra 4, which is Wayland, right under, I think, Rick Mooningham. So, I'm learning a lot from Shannon, from Wayland, Bailey, and then also Bailey's co-driver, Ryan Miller. So I'm able to learn a lot and learn it quick. So that was amazing. Just being able to do that, and then being involved with building my car. I can't say enough of that, because I know everything about the car, how it was built, why it was built this way, how it's put together, etc. So the experience and everything that I got from building that car and being a part of the Campbell's group, I couldn't change it for anything.
Perfect. And you guys, you said your fiance, you guys are you're not married yet?
We're not married yet.
Okay.
We're working on it. In California, technically, we are legally married. We're domestic partners in California.
Right.
But 2019, we all know what happened in 19. We got COVID hit us.
Right.
19 and 20. So everything to try and do a wedding from 19, 20, 21, everything got kind of pushed back, and we just fell behind on doing that. And then also during that time, Bailey got pregnant, and we now have a beautiful daughter, Emery. And
not just Bailey got pregnant. You both got pregnant. Okay. That's how that goes,
Yep. We got pregnant. And we were able to have a wonderful little girl, and that also hindered, getting married. That's also another feat of trying to create a wedding and plan a wedding and everything. So we plan on actually legally being married next year.
Good.
Sometime.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We'll be looking for our invitation.
Of course.
I know it'll be a hard party to get invited to, because it's just so many people that want to go.
It should be a good party.
I've known Bailey since she was like, I think diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how long I've known the family. So.
No, it's an amazing family. Everyone, like I said, just being able to be involved in it has been a true blessing, and learning everything I did. And I got to tell you, one of the coolest things that we do while racing is, right, it's not only myself and Bailey are racing, but Waylon and Shannon, we're all racing against each other, but we're all racing with each other. We all have the same drive. We all have the same want as to win, but yet we're all still a family, and we're all on the same radio channel. So you can only imagine, some of the conversations that go on through our radio throughout the day, whether it's coming up on someone or hearing that someone broke. There's been years where I've thrown spare parts on my car and brought them to Shannon when he had a broken, this or that, and same thing with Shannon. So, I mean, it's just so cool to see that group come together and all help each other, and it's so cool.
What would you say? Like, I think that Shannon's driving style it's not unique. There's others that do it, but he probably, he doesn't, it's like when the race starts, he doesn't know where the brake pedal went.
No, I I would say it's like man, what are those? Like when you throw the red flag at a bull, right?
Yeah.
All you see is red.
Exactly.
As soon as that green flag drops, I mean, he's out for blood. He runs that car as hard as he can, and that's one reason why we pre-run in our race cars is we plan on finding what's going to break, a week or two prior, and he'll run that car into the ground, and that's the goal is to win. It's not to finish,
Right.
Of course, you do everything you can to finish, but the goal is to win.
True.
So, get out front and run hard. And that's his mentality. And it's transferred over to, Waylon and Bailey. And it helped me, but it hurt me because I had that drive, but I didn't know for KOH what a finishing pace was until I finally finished in my single seat car. And then what the pace needs to be, where you can run hard and where you can't. And it's just natural instinct for him now. He knows where to run it hard and where to take it a little easy. But, if you're standing in the rock sections and all you hear is a bunch of 6,000 RPM and, rocks moving and throwing, it's Shannon coming through. So he's easy on some or in certain areas, but I mean, it's full throttle and it's a party and it's something to watch.
It's like an MMA fight.
Yes.
He just drives that thing. I mean, like you said, it's wreckers or checkers. I mean, there's no in between. Waylon seems to be a little less of that, but still, he's not afraid to flog the hell out of a car.
No.
Bailey seems having her learn to race, coming to our Dirt Riot races with her brother and her dad, and watching the dynamics and her driving style, even though they're in her ear, in the passenger seat going, faster, faster. I'm sure they're saying that. What I've noticed with her, she's so smooth from transitions. She may not be, let's say there's a 200-yard stretch. She may not be the fastest in that 200-yard stretch, but you get that, like the whole qualifying lap, and she's faster.
Yep. 100%.
So she might not go into the corner quite as fast, but she's coming out faster.
Well, going back to my automotive side of the marketing and everything, I did a lot of driver training stuff, and women tend to have a better understanding of the throttle pedal than men. They're much more linear on the throttle. They understand and they comprehend, some instructions a little bit better than men, right? Us guys just think automatically we get in and boom, full throttle and it'll go through it. And it's like, nope, you got to have some finesse. And that's where Bailey is totally different than the boys, is she's got that finesse. And, it's funny, like when we go out pre-running, Shannon doesn't go first. Waylon doesn't go first. I don't go first. We throw Bailey out front, and Bailey breaks trail for us all. And we watch Bailey go through everything first. So
why is that?
She's much smoother in certain areas than we are, right? I mean, we get bound up, and next thing you know, we're on the throttle and we're breaking something, or we're just blowing the tires off. She goes through it, and it's much smoother, much better finesse. And she's also got, Ryan Miller with her.
Who doesn't forget a rock on the trail anywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've had conversations with Ryan. I mean, he knows everything and anything about rock crawling and trail wheeling and whatnot. So, I mean, he's got her, and she's a smoother driver. It makes for the perfect trail breaker.
There you go. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And this last year was quite the year. You got injured before the race. You want to go into all that and how the race transpired, how it all fell in?
Yeah. So this last year, I finished KOH, and right, I'll go into the start of it. KOH usually dictates our Ultra 4 season. If you don't do well, you're kind of out of the points running for nationals. If you finish, you have a chance. And I finished fairly decent at KOH, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and run for the championship this year. And I started, running the car that season, and we did fairly well. Won a couple of races, finished on the podium a couple times. And our nationals race was at Lake Havasu, and I felt great. Just coming off a win. All three of us actually 1, 2, 3 on the podium, which has never been done, in history with a family and a Campbell team. So, coming into this race felt really good, and went out and did qualifying. Kind of screwed the pooch on qualifying, but wasn't too worried. That kind of track or course was what I do really well at, so I wasn't concerned. And green flag dropped and took off about mile 6. There was a little uphill, back down to a downhill, and 2 little rollers. And I didn't see the 2 rollers. I knew they were there, but I didn't see them. They came up on me really quick as I was chasing down a gentleman, Philip McGilton, who actually owns my current car now. I was chasing him down, and I didn't see those 2 rollers, and I hit one of the rollers, and I nosed into the second one, and lights out. I mean, it knocked me out. I lost feeling from the waist down. It hurt, 6 miles into the race, about 20 or so seconds, I think I was out, and took about a minute or so to catch my breath. Thought about hitting that panic button on the tracker, and then my dumb male instinct kicked in, and I just kept driving, and ran another 6 laps. And throughout that day, I was able to pick off a bunch more drivers and worked my way up to corrected time first place, physically third. And at the end of the day, I crossed that finish line third place. And I was considered for the national championship, but I wasn't the favor to win. And securing that third place finish at Havasu secured me the national championship. So it was a pretty surreal race. It was one of the worst races of my life, and one that I'll never forget, but it was also one of the best races of my life. Proving that, quote unquote privateer, and doing most of all this, with my father and myself and my wife, working on the car in the garage by myself, we can do this. And it just was a huge feat, and it made me feel amazing and horrible at the same time, and brings me to where I'm at now, which is Ultra 4 carless, but still in the game, helping a couple of people here and there do some driver training, and I'm still involved with the sport and still love it.
So are you going to get back in a car eventually, or was the injury, the impact and the injury too much?
So I ended up breaking, doing 6 compression fracture in my back. Okay. And one of them's 90% collapsed. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it in time to fix them. The only other option I have now is possibly a surgery, which I don't want to go in for. But it hasn't stopped me from getting in a car. I've got the okay by the doctor a couple of times to, go out. And this last year, right after the championship, my wife Bailey was asked to race Baja 1000 for Ford Motor Company. And we were grateful enough and thankful enough to to run the Bronco Raptor this last year, the Baja 1000, and I co-drove for her. And we were able to take home a Baja 1000 win right after, breaking the back. And, it's I won't say I won't ever get in a car or Ultra 4 car. I may not do any short course rock racing. That's pretty hard on the body. But don't count me out for not showing up at a KOH unexpectedly or something of that nature.
Okay. So then that was 2023. 2024 rolls around. You guys take all the cars to the lake bed, correct?
Correct.
Or did you leave yours at home?
Nope. Prepped. My goal for 24 was to win KOH. So I put every penny that I won, every effort I had into prepping that car, getting it ready for KOH of 24. And got to the lake bed. Did not do any pre-running. I was waiting for a call from the doctor. The doctor called me about 3 days before KOH and said, "Hey, I strongly advise you not to get in the car." So that was a big kick in the knackers, and I decided to sit KOH of 24 out in a way. But luckily, Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers, Dave Cole, had this awesome idea where we were able to register for pennies on the dollar. So I was able to secure a KOH spot for $325 or something. And I was like, you know what? I've already invested all this time and money into the car and the event. What's $300? So my sponsors were there. I have Dixon flannels on the side of the car. I was like, you know what? We're here. Let's show off the car. So I decided to take the car through tech and contingency, and get everything done for registration and whatnot. So the car is all legal to race. And, the night before the race, I told everybody, hey, car's registered. If anybody has a problem, I'll come out on course, give them a hand, whatever. I'm a registered driver, and didn't really think anything of it. No one did. And got Bailey ready in the morning, gave her a kiss, and she went on her way. Told Bro good luck, and he took off. Same thing with Shannon. They all took off. And that's where the day started for us. Wayland came over the radio, said, "Hey, I hit a rock. I blew the steering rack out." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I ran to the semi trailer. I started pulling parts, tools, everything he needed to change out a steering rack. He then came running in from where his car was because he broke at mile 1. And he came running in. I handed him all the parts, all the tools, and everything but the rack. And I said, "Hey," I said, I'll see you out there or whatnot." And over the radio, I hear Bailey come over, and they said they blew the motor up in her car. And I was like, well, shit, what are we going to do? And we're standing there. My car's in the tent, registered. Everything's ready to go. And I said, you know what? Screw it. Put the driver's suit on, had someone fire up my car, drove it over to the start line. I'm 30 minutes late. I get suited up, and I head out with a steering rack for Wayland. And I start, I hand off the steering rack to Wayland at mile 1, told him I'd be back. I'm dropping my car off to Bailey at mile 9. And, I drove the car all the way to mile 9. And I wanted nothing more than to get out of the car. My back hurt that bad. Somehow no one knows this, but somehow I got a flat tire and turkey claw just driving the stupid car to Bailey. So I deliver a car with a flat tire and out of gas to Bailey and Ryan. So they then have to change a tire and transfer fuel into her car, or from her car into mine. And I hiked from roughly race mile 9 or 10 all the way back to Wayland. And keep in mind, at this point, my back is killing me.
Screaming,
Um,
yeah.
And I helped Waylon put a steering rack back in. We got his car fired up, and he was just about ready to take off, and there's oil dumping everywhere. And somehow his valve cover ballooned out on the side, and the valve cover gasket was just not sealing, and oil was everywhere. And him and I made the decision that it wasn't safe, and there was no time to fix it within time for him to make the checkpoint to continue. So him and I both started walking back to main pit, and then we were like, you know what? There's a rock trail out there that isn't very fun. We're just going to go ahead and head over there. And I believe it was it Check Me Out? I think it was something of that nature. Anyways, Waylon and I decided to start hiking over to remote pit 2, and then from remote pit 2 we hiked up to that trail, I believe, which was Check Me Out, and we got to remote pit 2 just as Bailey was rolling in my car. And Bailey ran the entire desert loop and part of the rock loop. And Ryan Miller was also with us as we were hiking over. And Bailey said, hey, Miller, why don't you jump in the car and take it for the end of lap 2 and the final lap 3 rock trails. So Miller jumped in the race car and took off, and Bailey and I and Waylon started hiking up, and we get a call on the radio that Shannon just made it into remote pit 2 and his co-driver wasn't feeling good. So Bro took off running back down to remote 2 and jumped in with Shannon and continued on, and Bailey and I continued on to the rock trail. Just as we got to the obstacle, Jason Shear was pulling out, and we sat there. I mean, I brought a bag full of snacks. I had, cuties and chocolate and drinks and everything, and we just had a picnic up there on the rock trail, guiding people through. It was just a really fun time. We spotted and winched every single person through except for the top 3. And it was a great time.
You said not the top 3? Was that because they'd already gotten through by the time you got there?
They had already gone through as we got there. Shear was the last one through when we got there, and then from Shear on, we assisted every car there. There was, the whole time we were there was 3 cars that were able to drive that obstacle. The rest of them, I winched every single one of them. And it was funny because I got people that were calling me after the race that was the one spot that they were worried about. And as soon as they said they saw myself and Bailey there, all their worries went away. And, for a few people, it took them to understand that, I'm there to help. I'm not there to screw anybody. And it just took a couple of people to realize that, just to trust in Bailey and I, and that we were there to get them through there as quickly and fastly as possible, because we're racers. We understand, right? You don't want to spend any time winching, or no one wants to hook up to a rope.
Right.
We all have ego, but the safest, fastest way out of that obstacle was hook to the winch and jam out. And, it was just a really fun day. I got to spend basically the whole day with Bailey, and had a lot of laughs, ate some snacks, and it was just an awesome time. I ended up hiking a total of, I think, 19 miles that day, and just whooped my ass. But it was probably one of the most fun KOHs I've ever had, even though I didn't really race.
Okay.
I raced a total of 9 miles and hiked 19. So, but it was probably one of the most fun I've ever had at that race.
So what is, besides you guys getting married, hopefully next year, what is and I say hopefully because you just never know what else will come about and maybe
Correct.
delay things, but What else is in the future for you guys?
Well, an event that you always chase and are participant in is the Rebel Rally.
Absolutely.
So Bailey just got announced this 2 weeks ago that she'll be running for Ford again in the Rebel Rally in a Ranger Raptor, which as of right now we're still in the shop finishing it up for. And
you got like a week.
Yeah, yeah, we leave, well, she leaves on the 8th. This will be, I'm staying home with Emery. She'll take off on the 8th. She has a new navigator, Sedona. So her and Sedona will leave on the 8th.
It'll be a great team.
Head up, and they'll be gone till the 19th. And we also have nationals coming up, which we should be leaving on the 15th or the 16th and headed to Davis, Oklahoma. You may or may not see me racing there. Who knows? But I may show up and see if I still got it. And after that, we're hoping to get another call back from Ford and race the Baja 1000. They just announced that they have the Ranger Raptor entering into the Baja 1000, and Bailey and I are hoping to, get those seats in that truck for this year and defend our win.
Excellent.
And
well, that sounds like a plan.
That's the goal. In the meantime, I'm also in the works of building Bailey a 1988 Mustang Fox body for doing some demos and car shows and things of that nature, and then maybe get her involved in some autocross. So we've got that going, and then hopefully next year racing season might be a little slower. I don't know. The season, the schedule did come out and it doesn't look too bad. Some really cool races. But we're hoping to do a little bit more trail wheeling and enjoying, as I just bought back my old LJ that I built back in 2010. So hoping to convert that back into a family rig and see us out on the trail and wheeling and enjoying life.
See a plan. Excellent.
Yeah, that's the end goal. I mean, I'd love to see Bailey in a trophy truck or a rally car or something of that nature. So the goal is to continue pushing and pursuing as many avenues and get as much seat time as we can in different types of vehicles. Hence the reason we're building autocross and all that kind of stuff. So just to expand the driving level and vehicle dynamic handling and all that kind of stuff. So should be good.
Great. Bryan, I want to say thank you so much for sitting down this morning and having this conversation with me and sharing your life and your racing career and your families with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It was great to talk about it, and you should see me out there sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Can't say when or where.
So I do want to say thank you for one thing that you did for me. Josh and I were up on Jamboree and we were coming out and we were following. You were with all the Genrite guys, and everybody's on big tires going up through property line there, up Big Sluice, and there was quite a few holes. And I'm cruising along in the little Cherokee with 35s, and you had stopped and gotten out, and Josh had gotten out of the truck to spot through the holes. And I remember you looking at going, okay, well, here. And you kicked one rock into a hole and said, I think you got it now. And I did. We drove right through. And I want to say appreciate you kicking that rock in the hole for me.
Well, anytime. I mean, one of the things that most people know about me is I'm one of the first people to always want to help. I love spotting. I love trail wheeling. Bailey hates it because I don't necessarily like sitting passenger seat in the trail car. I like walking, I like spotting, I like helping, and it's just one of those things, my nature, and I'll help anyone, and of course I'll always assist you in any way I can, whether it be kicking a rock in or getting you a drink.
I appreciate that, Bryan. All
Yep.
right, you take care and have a good day, and say hello to the rest of the family for me.
Will do. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.